Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. My name's Steve Fitzsimon, and I'm here with Louisa, Raffaele, one of our expert property managers. Welcome, Louisa.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for coming in. Today's episode is one predominantly for renters, but it also might apply for some private landlords and just as an educational piece for landlords, because we're going to cover a topic that gets a fair bit of press at the moment, which is maintenance and repairs to properties.
Always a doozy subject.
Isn't it? Who's responsible? How do we do it? What are we supposed to do? What's the right way about doing it? What's reasonable? What's fair? What's just? What's Marbo?
Well, if you ask the same question to 3 different people, you'll probably get 3 different answers.
Yeah,
on
that's
that one.
spot on. Let's try and bring some reality back to it. So what we're looking at, and we'll go through these separately because there are 2 types of maintenance. Do you want to go into the background on those 2?
So you've got your urgent maintenance. That's pretty much things such as you've got no hot water, your hot water system's burst, you've got leaks, your cooking has stopped working.
And there's a list of those.
Yeah, so you can find all your list of urgent maintenance on Consumer Affairs website.
Yeah, that golden little gem that exists in the background that not too many people know about, that sits there giving you guidance as to what you can do from a tenant side.
Yeah.
So we want to push tenants there on a pretty compelling way. But if we look at urgent maintenance, they changed a lot of the status of repairs with the legislation that took effect 3 years ago now. Can you mention a couple that weren't urgent repairs 3 years ago that now are?
Air conditioning.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Victoria now is the first state to have what is classified as a leisure item as an urgent maintenance.
Yeah, but you can understand if you're in an apartment that's west facing and it's the middle of summer and not having an air conditioner is pretty important. And then a lot of places now are having the challenge that their heating is also from their air conditioning as well. So, I can sort of understand bundling it together. Probably doesn't work if you've got an older house with 3 air conditioning units and one of them that's in the back room that doesn't get used much is broken and you've got to get out there as an urgent repair. But I think they've taken that blanket approach.
Yeah.
Any others?
So that's made it official in the Act now. So it used to be just reasonable time to get urgent maintenance completed.
Yeah.
Now it's immediately. It needs to be completed ASAP.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more time in a few minutes in relation to what that actually means.
Yeah.
Then the other type of maintenance?
You've got non-urgent maintenance. So that might just be you've got something very, very minor.
Cupboard hanging off or something like this.
Something that's not harming anyone. Your kitchen door cabinet is loose.
Yeah. Door handle in a corridor is loose.
Exactly. Something minor.
Yeah. And so different legislation applies to those different types of repairs. So if we start with the non-urgent repair, I always treat non-urgent repairs when I speak to owners as something that it's annoying if it's not fixed, but it's not really going to change anybody's life if it's not fixed for a week. But at the same time, I think that that doesn't mean that we should wait a week before fixing it. I think it's more just that they're not life-threatening as sort of the descriptor. If you're a tenant at the moment and you're sitting at home and you're going, oh, yeah, there is that problem with that window winder, or there is that problem with that cupboard that's hanging off, what do you recommend they do to begin the process of getting that repair rectified?
put it in writing to your agent or your owner. How your agent or owner may use a portal, report it through there, or send them an email. Make sure whatever you're sending, it's completely descriptive, what the issue is, what's happening. Send photos, send as much information as possible so that the owner or agent can know everything at the top of from your simple email and can arrange the trade. We don't need to go back and forth to try and get all that information to make sure that we've allocated the correct person to get the job done quicker.
So it's not I've got a problem with a tap. It's I've got a problem with the tap in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with the tap in the kitchen is that the water is coming out of the top of the tap rather than out of the nozzle.
Exactly.
And then you're showing photos of that in operation so they get an understanding of the quantity of water that's coming out of it. And therefore they can understand how pressing it is. They might even be able to give some stopgap tips to sort of resolve it in the short term.
Exactly. And it's not just for that. Say if in that video or photos, it is completely evident to the plumber that that needs to be replaced. They can already somewhat potentially provide an estimate price to the owner, agent, and say, this is what it's going to cost. Can I just go ahead and replace the tap
So they're
work?
turning up with the part.
Yeah. So you're not wasting time. They're not having to do 2-3 visits. Quicker for the renter. They don't have to take more time off work or to allow access. Just a much more enjoyable experience for everyone.
I get you. Now, some tenants out there will be saying, I don't really want to tell them about that. I'll just fix it myself because maybe if I tell them about it, they'll put my rent up.
We hear that quite often.
Yeah.
It's the fear of reporting maintenance at the moment.
It's like repercussion because we're in such an upwardly shifting market, the repercussion of doing that. And this, I think, impacts owners who might be a little bit lackadaisical with their management of their own properties. They may not have put the rent up for a while, or they may have been generous with their rent increases. And they then it brings their attention back to what the rent is being paid, and the fact that they've had to come up with $250 to change the tap over might alert them to the point that it's there. Do you think those fears are justified?
Yes and no. There's some minor maintenance, screwing a door handle. If you're not sure, sometimes YouTube it, Google something 5 minutes that you may be able to do yourself. Things like that, you are able to do them. Give it a go. There's websites. I know our website has got some handy tips on there about different sort of maintenance items that they can do. Yeah,
that's correct. So when a few years ago, we started doing videos for those common things: how to unblock a drain, how to screw back in a bedroom door handle, these type of things that are pretty straightforward if you know how to do them. But if you don't know how to do them, they can seem daunting. And so those things have been able to work. But I think YouTube's the real go-to.
Yeah, there's so much information you can find on YouTube.
Yeah,
everything is there.
Nowadays, it's like, well, can I be bothered calling a trade, or do I just YouTube it? And I think it's got legs. So if you're concerned about that and it is something minor, then okay, YouTubing it might be an option if you feel capable. Like, don't be playing with your electrical wiring by any
No,
chance.
definitely
but
not.
We're talking about your little basic things. So that avoids the interaction altogether, which might be a better solution. But the onus is actually on the owner to keep the property in good repair.
Correct. It is up to them to look after it, but it's also up to the agent as well to make sure things are done properly for the owner. If I know with myself, if I have a couple of leaking taps, I'll say to the owner, hey, we're sending a plumber there to check out 2 leaking taps. What about we get them just to check throughout the property, make sure there's no other leaks around?
Yeah.
So that we're not reporting something again.
Preventative maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's smart. From a tenant's view, though, let's go back now. They've reported it. Okay, they've sent the videos. They've made it 100% clear. A week later, crickets.
Still nothing.
Right? They've heard nothing. That wouldn't meet our expectations of service to a tenant. By that stage, I'd presume that we would be contacting the owner, contacting the plumber. The plumber would be in contact with the tenant if it was I'm using a dripping tap as an example here,
Mhm.
they'd be in contact with the tenant, organising a time to come around and fix it. Am I right?
Yeah.
So if you're getting to that time and you're still hearing nothing, something's wrong.
Either the agent hasn't reported it to the owner or the owner's not responding back.
What's the next step? We're 7 days in.
I'd be sending a follow-up to the agent owner saying, hey, what's going on? Just need to get a bit of an ETA on when can this happen. Obviously, tell them how it's progressing, if it's getting worse, what's happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, the reason why I say put it in writing, it's so that the renters are also protected. They've documented all of this information that they need to, because unfortunately, there are some owners and some agents that may not be as quick to do things as what others are.
So so we step forward a little bit. You've opened sort of a can of worms there because you're talking about the reasons why you send it in, and effectively what you're setting yourself up for is if this isn't fixed in 3 months, then I'm in a circumstance where I can claim compensation because I haven't had use of that tap or the tap has been wasting water that I'm paying for. Is that where you're getting at?
Not necessarily. It's to ensure that your liability for it, if further damage comes from it, if you've reported that leak and, for example, there's a bathroom tap that's leaking and it's leaking from the pipe, it's leaking into the cupboard, making sure that themselves aren't going to be responsible for that damage.
Okay, so we're looking at the what happens if it gets worse and then the rest of it. You actually recorded it at the beginning. You told the owner about it. They or the agent didn't do anything about it, and so you're protected from the further damage that might cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes good sense. But we haven't got the problem fixed. So we're here now. We're 14 days in. We haven't heard anything. What do we do now?
If you're not hearing nothing, you're not getting any response. You're literally getting crickets. If it's something that is urgent, make an application.
Non-urgent.
Non-urgent. I would be asking them to go ahead. The agent should have some sort of authority to go ahead with minor maintenance.
Yeah.
Go ahead, get them to go ahead, do it, or else serve them a breach of duty notice to have it completed.
Okay, so where do you get a breach of duty notice?
You can get that from the Consumer Affairs website.
Back to the website again.
Yep, Consumer Affairs has a lot of information on there.
Okay. Does that cost anything?
No cost whatsoever to the renter to make that
so
breach of duty.
They're notifying them then formally?
Yep. That's a formal request that needs to be completed within their 14 days.
Okay, why wouldn't you do that initially?
It can be seen as the harsh approach.
Right.
It's for example, telling a tenant, hey, I'm coming into your house to do, serving them with a notice of entry.
Right, as opposed to just sending them an email saying we'd like to come around on Tuesday.
It's just a different way to do it without being rude about it or angry about it.
Yeah, so it's de-escalating any tension that's in the room. So let's flip that. If I'm in a property and the landlord is a nightmare and has been a nightmare forever, and there's another maintenance issue that's come up, you'd be saying serve them the breach straight away because they are going to be a pain in the butt again. So let's address that by serving them with the official documentation on day one.
Correct. If you've got history with an owner not completing maintenance, then go ahead, serve that straight away because you know that's what's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, but no one wants legal documentation on day one put on their desk for a dripping tap that you could send a plumber out to and the next day it's fixed.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're looking at that now. If at the end of the 14 days they haven't fixed the tap, what do they do then?
Make an application to VCAT.
Okay. So you're going from the breach stage. It hasn't been breached within the required period. And all of these steps are detailed on the CAV website. But you're then making an application of VCAT where VCAT will have a hearing?
Yeah, so they'll have a hearing, and as a renter, you have a right to request that your rent is paid into a special maintenance account.
So if it's not done during the wait for the hearing?
So this is even up until the hearing, even once you've had the hearing, if the member has can see and has awarded in your favour that the owner must complete this maintenance, have them request that the renter pays their rent into a special maintenance account. So this then will essentially force the owner to complete the maintenance so that obviously they don't see a cent of their money until it's happened. It's finalised.
So essentially there is already in place, because like I look at things like purple pingers, right? And I sit there and I sort of go, oh my God, that's horrible. You know, these people are living in this property which is just decrepit, right? And you're sitting there and you're going, so why are they tolerating that? And am I right in that they perhaps aren't going to those steps? Because like I'm sitting there going, surely if the owner was not receiving any money, then they would fix the problem. So do you think that it's the lack of knowledge about the correct
100%.
steps to do it?
100%. They are not most people aren't aware of this special maintenance account.
Yeah.
It's going to make an owner complete their maintenance.
Yeah, well, they can't pay their mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not going to receive
and you've
a
issued
single
them
cent.
with the notice.
You've done everything properly. You've noted it all down. Get that done and you watch how quick the maintenance gets done when an owner's not seeing any money.
Okay, so you've got a dripping tap. You're 30 days in. You've done the right thing for the first 7 and 14 days. You've then issued the 14-day breach notice. You've then made an application to the tribunal. You've got to take half a day off work to go to the tribunal to get your tap fixed.
Well, a lot of the times nowadays, they're actually done over the phone. So you can have a quick lunch break and your hearing's done in half an hour.
So that changes that perspective. So minor hearings being done over the phone means that you're not losing the half a day. You're still getting the outcome that you want. So now if we go to the urgent repairs, we've got a completely different set of circumstances. The government allows you to spend up to $2,500.
Exactly right.
So let's look at this. I've got I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment and my toilet is blocked. I call the agency. I've sent them a photo showing that, well, it's a bit ugly, but it's not the most attractive photo. Property managers should be paid more. But you've got a blocked toilet. You've sent them a photo. You've explained the circumstances. 48 hours later, you're still sitting there with a blocked toilet. You go, this is a joke. What do you do at that point?
Get a plumber.
So you can just book out a plumber, and then because what if I don't have, like if the plumber turns up, he goes, mate, it's $500. I don't have $500.
Get them to send an invoice and the owner must pay it within 7 days.
Right. So they send an invoice to the, what if they don't want to do the work?
Well, a lot of the times an agency, I know for us, example, we've got our urgent plumbers.
Yes.
And we actually give a list of those plumbers to our renters when they're moving in. They've got it in their emails. We're giving them in a welcome pack. They're on the website.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time they will have a 30-day account or anything with the agent. Use the plumbers that are associated with that agency, and a lot of the time they will complete the work and send an invoice to the owner saying, hey, haven't heard anything, got a blocked toilet still for 2 days.
Got to be done.
Exactly.
So what if you've got a private landlord though, right? You know, because I'm thinking of this as it's obviously a real thing because you're seeing it on Purple Pingers and Co.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? These are significant leaks, significant problems. You've probably got a private landlord. You don't have, let's call it a hot water service, and it's $2,000. You don't have the $2,000 to pay to get your hot water service. Again, do you go through the process applying to VCAT, getting the money put into the maintenance? Like, how does it happen? Do they have a faster?
They do.
Right.
VCAT would be as an urgent maintenance, an urgent request.
Yeah.
So if it was a non-urgent maintenance, your hearing could be 2, 3, even a month.
Right.
But if an urgent
2 to 3
maintenance,
weeks or a month for non-urgent, yeah, and then urgent
within 2 days generally.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's effectively like, if this isn't working, you make you do a breach notice, I'd assume?
Well, when it comes to the VCAT stage, they'll actually do a compliance order.
Right.
And guarantee you the agent or private landlord does not want a compliance order because that information now is public knowledge and listed on Consumer Affairs.
Right. So they're going to want to avoid getting a bad name on websites, their own property being listed as being a bad landlord, etc.
Correct.
So it's, again, this is a circumstance where there are correct approaches to getting the works done.
Mm-hmm.
They do work, but the tenants need to use Consumer Affairs Victoria if they're not getting the polite approach to getting maintenance done.
Correct.
So first of all, report it in a normal way.
Mm-hmm.
Trades are taking longer now to do work than historically. Would you agree to that?
Yes, because they've got a lot more information, a lot more health and safety items they need to check off.
Right.
As well, quotes, cost of parts a lot more, and ordering as well.
Right. So delays, there are delays to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
So be practical with your
Exactly.
thing. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be hearing nothing.
Exactly right.
So if you're hearing nothing, it's a problem. If you're getting updates, well, they're likely acting as best as they can under the circumstances. But that doesn't mean that it's okay for you to be waiting there for an extended period of time for either an urgent or a non-urgent repair.
Yeah.
You should always be seeing steps in the right direction. And if you don't see those steps, then start with your breach notices. Start with your VCAT hearings.
Correct.
Because they can be resolved over the phone. They're done pretty quickly and easily. And it'll lead to a solution faster.
100%.
Thanks for giving the insight today.
No problems.
Thanks, Louisa.